How have things changed for Settlers Hospitality in the last month?
In the last month, we've gone from shutdown mode in our businesses and laying off many of our people, or practically all of our people, and closing 90% of our operations, to restructuring all of our debt relationships, working with our suppliers to restructure all of our supply chain, and now more recently obtain much needed government and private funding, including our SBA PPP loans and EIDL loans, as well as some state programs such as PETA. And we've now brought back over 200 associates back to work, and our team is working very feverishly to get ready for what is left of our 2020 season.
How are you able to bring staff back when 90% of your business is closed to guests?
Well, it was a challenge just to bring 90% of our staff back within the timelines that were allowed for with some of the relief programs by the federal government. But our team reacted amazingly, and we brought 95% of our workforce back in 10 days. I couldn't believe the outcry from our staff wanting to come back to work. I would say that it was also difficult to create, with an ever-changing environment, what is an appropriate, safe working environment with different new standards for people to be working together, albeit safely distant, on projects. So we've divided people in over 50 different work groups to prepare our properties for the season. And now we have learned just about everything about our staff's hobbies, in that people who normally work in kitchens are doing landscaping, we're painting our properties, and we're preparing for what we think is the new normal, with things such as private dining rooms and garden-side dining and picnic baskets and new housekeeping procedures and lots of new supplies that we'll be using for cleaning. The list is really quite long to retool all of our businesses in such a short period of time. Sounds like you wouldn't know what to do with hundreds of workers with no business going on, but we're actually extremely busy to prepare ourselves to be the leader and ready to open in the yellow phase under Governor Wolf's plan.
Given the amount of time the majority of Settlers Hospitality has been closed, how are you weathering the financial crisis associated with the pandemic?
Well, that's a loaded question. It's not been a great financial time for our business, or I think for anyone in our industry, and for that matter for just about everyone in the country. We've exhausted our liquidity and resources on our balance sheet, and for the first time in our company's history, we've been dependent on government programs in order to survive. So I applaud the federal government in acting as quickly as they did. I think anyone could pick apart different ways that could have been done better or more efficient, but at the same time, for such a broad sweeping task, we were just happy to be able to participate in it. What I'd like to call out, though, is I don't know any banking relationships in my past or our family's past that have worked as hard to react so quickly as the community banks in Wayne and Pike County. Wayne Bank, the Dime Bank, HMB, I've heard from just about every business owner in the area how well their bank has worked to help them. And I know that before the big banks were doing forbearances on loans, the Dime Bank was working with us. And as soon as the PPP program came out, HMB Bank was working with us. And we were able to get this work done very quickly. We were able to get funds in the very first wave. And I just think that it's a testament to how caring our local banks are for their customers in this community, that they were completing the process when a lot of our national banks were just getting up and accepting applications for these programs. And I think that everyone should remember that in the long run. On the other hand, and probably not as nice of a light, is I've been extremely disappointed in our insurance industry's participation in this pandemic. Seems like every industry in the country has had to give in one way, shape, or form to make it all work. And despite tremendous efforts by our local insurance agencies in trying to fight on behalf of our businesses, when it comes to business loss insurance and flexibility on premiums on property and liability, and the timeliness of medical benefits, the insurance industry has really remain unfazed by this. And I'm sure that they have a lot of bills that they will be paying, but I just don't feel like they jumped in with both feet forward the same way that our banks did, and in particular our community banks. And I'm hoping to see that change in the future.
As you learn more about the phases of reopening, what are you doing to ensure the safety of your staff and future guests?
I think every business out there is coming up with all new standard operating procedures as it relates to cleanliness. In the hospitality industry, that's certainly exists in the hotel side, predominantly in the housekeeping department and all aspects of food service. But we're revamping all of our processes there, new chemicals, new equipment, new standards for room turnovers, sneeze guards and acrylic shields at our point of sale terminals. Obviously masks and gloves were appropriate. We've got an entire team that we've set up around safety and compliance to go through the stages of red, yellow, green, and whatever will evolve into the new normal as it relates to safety and cleanliness. We have staff members with all that they are doing right now is going around from project team and work environment from one to the next on things like temperature, hand sanitizers, masks, social distancing, both by workers and by customers. And then we are also physically changing our plant. We are spreading tables out within our dining spaces. We're moving as many things outdoors as we can. And we find like we're uniquely qualified in the Northern Poconos to adapt to this change because our biggest asset is our natural resources. So we're looking at this as a challenge on how to better use our natural resources as a way of providing better experiences to our guests. We may have to run food a little bit further. We may have to come up with a unique way of packaging things. But our rivers, our lakes, our streams, our hiking trails, our picnic areas, everything about the outdoors being a focal point for our guest experience is the challenge that we now have. If we are going to adapt and compete in this new normal from a business standpoint, it's not just about new cleaning standards. It's also about a new environment and taking advantage of your entire property and your entire community to provide the right experience for your guest that makes it easier for your staff to be safe and hospitable at the same time.
Have you been working with elected officials and trade organizations on the economic crisis caused by this pandemic?
Ironically, at a time when it's not about Republicans and Democrats, our elected officials have been doing a fantastic job navigating these waters and helping us through this. During the crisis mode of shutting down and trying to figure out the economic relief efforts, they were available to the smallest of businesses, whether it be local commissioners or state elected senators and representatives, even the governor's office, and especially our federal congressmen. Through the transition now as we plan for reopening from red to yellow to green, there's been a lot of navigation to help us with the economic development, paired up with our local economic development agencies for DCED and WEDCO and Pike County Development Corporation have been helpful in stabilizing us in the short term. And all of that work, including thousands of man hours by our staff in getting ready for this, it will be for naught if we get to the middle of June and we've exhausted all of our resources, all of the relief resources that were presented to us, and we don't have a plan to reopen for this season. Our business cannot survive the summer, and our staff, quite frankly, will have a hard time surviving this winter if we are not gainfully employed and able to work. We're not really looking for any more relief dollars. We're looking to open. And what we really need to be able to do is prove that we are the front lines in a tourist economy when it comes to taking care of the more summer visitors that we have, second homeowners and vacationers. They are here anyway, regardless as to whether they're being asked to self-quarantine or not. And we're the ones who are equipped to take care of them for their meals, for their lodging, and for other services. And that's also what's going to allow us to survive. So we need to be open. We need to be open for the season, and we are ready to do it safely. And I just hope that we don't go through all of this work just to lay people back off and deal with all of the other host of problems that our area has anyway, with the economic blight that will result by a closed summer in the Poconos.
Do you have a message for the staff and guests?
Absolutely. I mean, for our staff, I've watched our team go from unemployed and quite honestly seemingly depressed, just like our property has looked, to looking as good as I've ever seen, both the morale of the team as well as the work that we're doing to transform our properties. I can feel the energy building, and I think in the hospitality industry, when there's good work being done, there's a self-gratification by serving property and by serving guests, and we're now ready. And so I think my message for the staff is, don't let that momentum stop, and if we can keep it going long enough to be able to serve our guests when they get up here, the message for our guests is that we are prepared. When it's open for business and you're allowed to come visit and vacation in the Poconos, we'll have a way for you to do it safely, and we'll have a way to have fun again. And our staff can't wait to be able to do that for you.